Before I welcome out the filmmakers, I first want to give a sincere thanks to our sponsors. So many people helped make this festival happen. Our presenting level sponsors who continued from last year's festival, this one, Acura and YouTube, were big supporters of everything next. And also this incredible theater, the Ace Hotel. We sincere thanks for them for revitalizing this theater and making it open to the community so we can see cool new shit here. So it's a pretty incredible space. So with this festival, we try to do something different, and we're only showing, instead of doing a festival with everything going on, we wanted to be very focused and only have one thing going on at a time and really make an event out of it. So with all these afternoon screenings that we've been doing, we reached out and talked to the filmmakers, and I was talking to Adam, the director, about who he felt like was someone that he was really excited to talk about this film. And someone who really meant something to the making of this film. And he mentioned how Drive had such an impact on him being able to get support and being able to make this film. And he talked about how Nicolas, Refn, the director, was just an influence as a filmmaker, and how Drive kind of really meant everything to him, for him to be able to make this film. So after, you're gonna have to stick around, because we'll have a pretty awesome conversation between Adam, the director, Simon, the filmmaker, and Nicolas Refn, and they're just gonna talk about really cool shit. So let's welcome out the filmmakers. They, for the past 3 years, have had world premiered their newest projects at Sundance in our Park City at Midnight section, and I just love everything they do. It's a real honor to be able to welcome director Adam Wingard, writer Simon Barrett.
Simon, do you want to call?
Yeah, we've got some cast here. Can we bring up Micah Monroe, Brendan Meyer, Chase Williamson, and also our producers, Jess and Keith Call. You guys have to like say and do charming things. Yeah, we're not doing it.
Thanks for coming out. I mean, I don't usually like to give big intros to a film because it's kind of pointless, because you're about to watch the movie and you haven't made up your mind yet or any kind of way. I just want you all to know that this is a very special evening because right now I'm going on about 31 hours without sleep. So this conversation after the film is bound to be interesting in more ways than one, possibly more ways than what we'd planned originally. So if I pass out, or if anything like that happens, just call a paramedic or something. All right, thanks for coming out, and we'll talk after the movie.
Great pleasure to welcome back to the stage Adam Wingard, Simon Barrett, and to moderate our conversation today, the visionary filmmaker behind many films, but I would just claim him as the filmmaker behind the great Pusher trilogy, Nicolas Refn.
So, here's the future of cinema, so let's give them a real round of applause, okay? So, what's it feel like now? In the future?
Yeah, this is really, we weren't quite sure how the audience here was going to react to this, because it's more goofy and not maybe as artistic as what they were expecting, but it was cool to hear everyone.
You sound like a film critic from the LA Times. So let's get the really boring questions out. How do you guys work? I mean, who gets the final say?
Well, I mean, really, we have a pretty even collaborative process. Usually it starts with, you know, us just kind of agreeing on an idea, you know.
I didn't ask that. I asked you guys the final say.
We have a magic 8-ball. It's mostly filled with old gin, and whenever we really have a conflict, we just roll it, and it's all it says yes definitely because it's broken. And we're like, sweet, you were right. And that's kind of our boss.
You will not answer, will you?
I mean, it depends. I think I have probably final say over the script, and Adam has final say over the final film. So Adam.
I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't think there's
Well,
like
Adam has final say.
I don't know. I mean, we agree.
Well, I don't really know how to edit, so yeah.
You're like the worst parents I've ever met.
Well, see, we have two producers who are like our film parents, so they keep us in check.
Yeah, we work with Jess and Keith Calder on like kind of everything, and they actually really do kind of moderate, and if there's a conflict, we really trust them to like, you know, we'll be talking about like weird script stuff, and I'll be like, I don't quite know what to do, and I'll be like, let's just table this, like Jess will know, and then we'll be all right, you know, and we'll just move on. So that's helpful.
Okay, that was boring. So, let's try another
This is
boring
challenging.
question. How did the idea come about? This is a great film, by the way. I thought it was terrific. So, how did the film come about?
It came about basically through watching, you know, a back-to-back screening by myself of Terminator and Halloween. Like we were going through this kind of like weird like crisis where we didn't know what movie to make. Because you know our first real success was with You're Next, and that kind of like started us in sort of the direction that we'd always wanted to be in. But now that we were in a place where, because you know before You're Next, we were basically in a situation where if we wanted to get a movie made, we had to think in terms of what can we get funding for, and in that case. It was, we came up with a home invasion film because we knew it was simple, self-contained, and we could do it for, under $1 million, basically. And after that film, did its thing, we were left in a position now where we, for the first time, could kind of, pick a project more as, real filmmakers, but that kind of left us in this weird void because then we were kind of like, well, what movies do we really want to make, and the first thing we thought of really was we wanted to do some action movies, because we both, I think the first time Simon and I actually talked, we bonded over John Woo's The Killer. So, there's always been this like, one need to like blow a bunch of shit up and like, have a bunch of people shooting, a bunch of guns around and stuff. And, so we actually, we tried to put together an action film initially. Yeah. And that didn't really work because we tried to be kind of too straightforward with it.
Well, yeah, we had this idea that like after Your Next, Adam was like, oh, I like doing action stuff. Like we should do a movie that's literally all action. And I was like, that's a great idea. So it was going to be called Nonstop, which was probably one of the first signs that we were fucking up. And it like literally started with like a guy getting shot, and the ambulance comes and picks him up, and then on the way to the hospital, people start attacking the ambulance. And it turns out he's like a secret agent. The rest of the movie is this non-stop chase scene as this like paramedic realizes that she has to like complete his quest. And the script was never right. It was never that good. I would just write.
Well, also we tried to shoot. We were trying to like put it together in South Korea, and we didn't really know anything about South Korea.
I buried the lead. It was set in Seoul because we thought it looked cool.
Okay, so all this is after You're Next.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so after You're Next, you do all this
bullshit.
soul searching.
Yeah. And then this basically just led to me watching The Terminator and Halloween for like the 50 millionth time. But what happened was it just clicked that I felt like I just needed to make sort of like a nostalgic picture, like something that defined why I wanted to make movies to begin with. And Simon and I, we both have pretty much exactly the same kind of interests, and so it was easy to kind of come to that.
Well, it was weird because every movie we do is kind of different. Usually what kind of happens is we'll come up with like the idea for a type of movie we want to do, and then I'll just go off on my own and write it, and I don't know what I'm writing at all, like plot, characters, or anything, until I have a finished script that I'm pretty comfortable with. So that way he can approach it with the objectivity that I've lost by then, and vice versa. I stay completely out of the editing room until I'm invited. But this was a slightly different thing because I'd actually started a version of the script back in like 2007. and got like 20 pages in and was like, this is just boring and depressing. It was going to be all about like PTSD. It was very much like a revenge drama with like a guy like coming to like a family and killing them for elaborate reasons. And it was just like a complete downer.
Somebody needs to have a lot more anger in them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, until like a couple hours ago. Yeah. But like, I really like. I was writing this and I was like, this is so self-indulgent, and no one's gonna want to make this, and why am I doing this to myself? And I just stopped, and then Adam like was like, we should do something that's like more like a slasher, but with like a killer who's like kind of robotic. And I was like, actually, I have a family drama that this kind of fixes all of its problems.
So this was after you had seen Determined on Halloween, then you say you want to do a family drama.
Well, what I did is after I saw that, it just kind of like clicked that those two movies kind of defined the type of movie I wanted to make, you know. And also at that time, I was also really obsessed with Prometheus. I know that's not a popular thing to say, but I really liked Michael Fassbender's character, so I like the idea of like an android movie, you know. And so initially, my idea, which might not have worked, was more of like an android like chase movie, sort of. And, but you know, I basically picked Simon. I was like, let's do a movie that's like, well, actually, you know what? When I really think back to it, like, I'd read this book called Shock Value, which is like kind of a breakdown of like horror cinema through like the 70s, and they talk a lot about Halloween in that. And that was actually what made me watch Halloween that night, was because in that book, they broke down the essence of Halloween in an interesting way, which was, you know, just about like, you know, what made that film work, about like Michael Myers being this faceless killer, and you know, and like
I think we've seen the movie.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you know, but like I wanted to, I just wanted to do like exactly opposite of that, I guess, you know, because that was done, you know, and it just kind of like it made sense to me, you know. Oh, what?
Okay, so that's another more interesting question now. How long does it take to write the scripts?
What?
When you have the idea cooked up, you go away and lock yourself in a room and...
Yeah.
Okay, so he comes to you and he says you these very long ideas, and then you say, hey, I got a family drama, and what does Adam say?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that, because that's this fun surprise. When the script's done, I think I was more like, what did I say? I was like, oh, you know, I have this idea called like The Guest. And you're like, yeah. It's like,
So you have the title?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I work hard on my titles. I usually have them, and then I like try to come up with a script that fits them.
Right. You already have The Guest.
Yeah. So I felt really confident about that one, and there wasn't a Liam Neeson movie coming out with the same title, so it felt like on the right track. But then, yeah, I mean, like one of the kind of secrets to our partnership is we just give each other a ton of space. Like Adam doesn't even really pester me about like when's the script gonna be done, because he knows that'll just stress me out, and then I won't be able to.
I'm just too high in my apartment anyways, and just like smoking weed, watching Prometheus over and over again.
I got the script out, and you're like, yeah. Is this the one about Michael Fassbender playing basketball? Like, yeah.
I told you never to call me before 3 p.m.
So I just really kind of go off and figure it out on my own, and then, you know, I tend to go a little bit nuts. Just during that process, I'll like spend like days without leaving my
Do you
apartment.
both live in LA? So,
Yeah,
okay.
we live pretty near each other.
Well, at the time, we actually lived like 2 houses down.
We lived on the same, we're neighbors,
Okay.
yeah, we lived on the same block.
It was sexy.
But we didn't see each other very often.
And how long does it take to write the script? Like once you're in your apartment, how long does it take?
Generally about like a month to
Okay.
6 weeks. If it goes past 6 weeks, I usually am derailed. Recently I did a script quicker than that, you know, like in like a couple weeks, but that was like a weird thing where I just didn't have anything else going on. I didn't have any like doctor's appointments.
You don't have any kids?
I do not have, I'm not married, I have no children. So
Yeah.
that helps, yeah.
Ladies, you want to get in the movie business?
I literally cannot keep a houseplant alive, ladies. I just noticed it's not looking so good. I can't remember when I last watered it.
Okay, so then you hand the script to Adam 6 weeks later.
Yeah. So I handed it to Adam, and I think the way it usually works is Adam reads it, and then he'll have some notes, and then we'll show it to Keith and Jess.
Who are what?
Our producers.
Okay.
And he was pretty into it right away. He thought it was pretty funny. So then we just passed it on to Keith and Jess, and they had some notes about like generally kind of character stuff, making it more like likable or unlikable depending. And then we kind of started pre-production at that point.
And what was the budget?
Like 60 million, I think. That's where it ended up.
If that cost you 60 million, you said?
A lot of it went to my weed budget. So. That's all I got. I just got weed jokes. So.
They're eating it up, man. She's fucking. I'm so high. They love it.
You're supposed to say Dave's not here.
Okay. So, what was the budget again?
Nothing we're allowed to say.
That's a rude question.
I don't know if we're allowed to say.
Should we say? I don't
We
know.
say. Wave a hand at us. We should say.
What should we say?
No one is waving a hand at us. Okay.
It was
So
about
you can't-
it was about $5 million
It's about $5 million?
ish.
Ish. Cool.
Were you disappointed?
No, I thought it was very impressive for $5 million. And where did you shoot it?
We shot in New Mexico and shot in the area of Alexa.
What?
I don't know.
We shot it like an hour outside Albuquerque in this like town called Moriarty. That
I actually just said both those because I couldn't tell if you said what did you shoot it on or where did you shoot it.
And we shot it in.
I'm just trying to cover all our bases here.
We shot it in a town of 1,800 people that is best known for having really good fireworks stands through some legal loophole.
And how long did you shoot for?
2 days.
32 days.
32 days?
Two of those were pickup days here in LA that we added. Like the stuff at the KPG corporate office stuff was added after the fact. So it was
Wow.
technically like we just needed to explain what was going on.
Yeah,
Was that something that you discovered later on?
Yeah, we showed it to people and they just like it was just too jarring when Lance Reddick shows up with the mercenaries at the house. They just like they couldn't figure out if we were kidding or if they
Which was a lot, actually.
yeah, that definitely was a factor in your next as well. But yeah, like audiences were really confused, and so we felt like we needed to build up his arrival a little bit more.
Okay, so you make this movie for $5 million in 32 days, and then you show it, and then you realize you want to do some extra stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we just realized that it was just missing a little something there in the middle, and then and also based on those test screenings, we also just kind of tightened up the movie by probably 10 or 15 minutes or something.
So how long was it originally?
I mean, it's hard to say because things come and go, so I don't really remember the exact running time. It was maybe an hour and 56 minutes was the first cut,
Yeah.
And then it cut way down, and then we brought it back up a little bit. I don't even remember the running time now. It's like an hour 45 or
I
something.
think it's
Well,
39.
Something like that.
Very invested
I don't
filmmakers.
know.
Obviously, it feels much longer. We're sorry.
But you're in great hands. I mean, you are with, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the people that are releasing this film, Bob and Gene Birdie, are basically like Yoko Ono and John Lennon of independent film distribution. And yes, they have been probably responsible for more filmmakers getting their breaks than a few other people. So you're in the best of hands. So I mean, this is going to go really well, maybe.
Do I have to answer that? Yes.
And what are you doing next?
We kind of don't know.
You don't know?
There's a couple things that we're working on, and it's one of those.
Well, one's like a studio.
What are you working on?
No,
What are you doing
well,
next?
one's like a studio thing, so we just don't even know how that's supposed to even happen.
Are you still doing that The Bringing movie?
Yeah, we had to start with the Bringing.
I'm not doing the bringing.
You were attached to it in internet stories
You
that I
were
read
attached to
online.
Oh, you believe the internet?
I did. Yes.
No, I'm not doing the bringing. What are you doing next?
Well, we really.
I'm not even gonna go.
You're not gonna go.
Are you doing a remake or something?
No.
No?
No. I'm not going to say what we're doing next because I don't know what we're doing next.
We really don't know.
You want a job?
We've got a couple things.
I'm remaking Drive, actually.
I saw it in the movie here. know that?
No.
When I was really down and out and having an artistic and financial meltdown, and I really needed the money, I went to England and did Miss Marple, which is this British Agatha Christie character. And I only did it for the money. And in one of it's like a 90-minute TV movie, and Dan Stevens was in it, and this was like 7, 8 years ago. And back then, he was really extraordinary, and it was really
not anymore.
But it's not so much. I thought that he was going to become much bigger faster because all the girls wanted to fuck him on set. So, you know, what was he doing in England? You go to LA. And I think he's absolutely amazing in this film. I think his performance is outstanding. How did you find him?
Well, I mean, it was just a process of just meeting with a lot of actors, and you know, I mean, it's really not that interesting of a story, honestly. Like,
right, let's skip it. And the young girl, the blonde one, she's great. She's in the audience. Terrific. How did you find her?
That's not an interesting story. Yeah.
Let's skip
Auditions.
that.
She did great in her auditions. Micah, thank you. You did great.
She was the only person who was funny in her auditions, like, or who made us laugh.
She was funny.
Yeah, I think possibly because she had very little interest in whether or not she got the part. But she was like, she came in and was just totally relaxed and was immediately kind of making fun of us, and it was really good. And we were like, all right, this is like what we need to make this character likable. You know, like that's a lot of the likability was not necessarily in what I've written. Like we needed someone to like add that. That's the way I write a lot.
Because you read your part was bad and she needed to make it good?
Yes, that's it, yes. And that's what we said to her, and she was just like, oh, this sounds like a lot of work, I don't know if I want to do it, but like, you got it. That was it.
Next question.
Anyone else in the cast you want to talk about?
You really put me on the spot here, you know? Like, I haven't had any sleep, and like...
Here we go again. What other kind of inspirations for this movie?
I mean, you know, like... to me, like, the whole thing was just sort of like an amalgamation of sort of like just, you know, just like all the, you know, kind of 80s canon, like B-movie action films.
He just died.
Do I?
Yeah.
What did?
Mr. Cannon.
Oh, really? Well, you know, I really wanted to like to find a way if we could possibly like buy the
You
rights.
said you I just talked about.
Am I supposed to cry or something? Oh fuck, he's dead.
Alex Ross
Everybody dies, you know.
very dedicated the screening of Listen Up Philip yesterday to him. Coming on going.
Good for you.
Very moving moment. We didn't do that. We're kind of thinking about ourselves.
So you say what? 80s action B movies? What was it?
I just wanted to remake Halloween and Terminator and throw it into one movie. It's, you know, I don't know. I mean, like, you're making this really hard on me. And,
You made a great movie.
Feels like that's the way it is for Next Fest. It's either you get a good movie or you get a good Q&A. We made a good movie.
You guys want to make studio movies, or do you want to continue in the independent?
Actually, I wanted to ask you about that because you've been like attached to a bunch of studio stuff, but you've never made a studio movie, right? It's always been like independent, like financed, sometimes self-financed. So we're kind of at that point where we're looking at studio projects, but so far they've all kind of fizzled out and been depressing. So yeah, do you have any advice in that regard?
Well, I think it's a very difficult question to answer because it depends on what you want to do. And it depends on what kind of films you want to make, because, of course, studios can provide you an incredible amount of opportunities, but it also comes at a price. And it just really depends on how you want to deal with your life and the kind of films you want to make.
We pretty much just want to reboot Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. so
I actually really would like to reboot Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Again?
Well, does that one new one really count? I think I want to do like a shot-by-shot remake of the original, just so I can exist in the Ninja Turtles world.
I think it made like $100 million this weekend, though. I think it counts. I think I have to count it.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think that, when you do studio films, money is such an essential part of it, and of course, everybody wants to make great films, but there's stockholders, and in the end, that's what it's about. I think that as long as you know that, I'm sure that you'll be fine, but that always comes with a compromise. So it really depends on what
Well,
you're going to do.
I like a lot of studio pictures, so it's not like I would turn my nose up. I like the idea of doing bigger movies, but it is like, to me, it's about like, if we're going to do like a studio picture, I want to find, producers that are working at that level that I can trust in the same way that I trust our producers that we work with, because they've nurtured us in a way that's helped us, expand as filmmakers. And in my experience working, just even peripherally, trying to get studio stuff set up, is that the projects just don't come together, or they shouldn't come together whenever you just don't click with the producing team. And I feel like if we found the right producing team at the right studio, then I think it would work just fine, But because we've never done it, we've never had that experience, so it's hard to say. But I wouldn't turn my nose up at it, like I said, I love Prometheus, so I feel like a hypocrite if I,
Yeah, but clearly no one's telling Ridley Scott what to do on that film. I mean, to maybe a detriment. Like, clearly he's doing his own thing. So yeah, we need to basically be as successful as Ridley Scott before we make a studio film. That's my current plan. Then it'll work out. Has that been kind of your experience with some of the studios that you've been attached to, as you were working on it to a point where you felt like creatively it wasn't going your way, or just not?
Well, I think the only one that I really worked on was Logan's Run
Okay.
for some time, but there were some complications with the, in terms of when you make these things, because they're so monumental, you just kind of have to agree to do it even before it's ready to go, because it takes a lot of concentration and time, and I had other things I wanted to do, and you can't just do those kind of studio $100 million movies as maybes or what if, or you have to really 100%. You have to show that respect, because they are giving you a lot of money, so you have to treat it very wisely, and I guess it just didn't feel that was the one, because I enjoy my creative and financial freedom, and if you have $5 million, what more do you need? But some people want more, and everything that comes with that. But the situation is that in the end, you can have as much freedom as you want creatively, but if your movie doesn't make money, it doesn't matter, because then it's not successful, especially nowadays where everything is about money. So you'd have to figure out what you want to do. If you can make movies at $5 million, why not just continue doing that? Why would you want to change that?
Well, because at the end of the day, I feel like what I really want is more time to make movies, and that's like the main key that I'm lacking, because, I feel like, right now we're still in that phase where, to get these things done, we have to just, we have like a very minimum amount of time to make this type of movie. I feel like 32 days is pretty minimum when you have action, all just everything that happens in this type of picture, and to me, I want to be able to have a chance to explore the scenes more, because I come from like a super no budget background, and the very first movie I did was this little $3,000 movie that I spent basically 2 years on. It costs nothing. It basically costs like the cost of the DV tapes and gas and food, and we just spent all that time making it. But the cool thing about it, and the reason why the movie actually came out as a movie, is because we had time to explore the film until it became a movie, And through doing stuff like that is how I felt like I learned to actually make movies, was not just to like come at it and be like, regimented and, because everything I used to do was very improvisational and stuff. So I had to get all that kind of stuff out of my system and explore, filmmaking before I was ready to even work on movies that had like structured stories that Simon could write. And, but I mean, for me, I feel like I'm still learning every time, every movie I make, I feel like it's weird. It's like, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like there's all these like things that I would do differently, and they seem so obvious now, but like at the time, it's like, you're so just trying to, hold it together that sometimes you don't see some of those kind of things. Or are you perfect?
I think I look at it like frost. I just say, let it go. Because you can't change it.
No, and I don't mean, and by that I don't mean that I'm not happy with the movie at all. I think what I'm getting at is that I know next time, how to
not to do it.
Just to eliminate, one thing at a time.
But there's never a perfect equation. I mean, it's always going to be like this.
Well, no, and that's fine.
But that's the fun part.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, and every time I feel like I enjoy the outcome more. I mean, at one point, we were doing a lot of really small things before, we really jumped into like Your Next and stuff. And it always felt like we were just, trying to work out little bits of stylistic ideas and stuff. And in those little projects, at a certain point, it stopped feeling like I was enjoying the outcome. And that's when we, because those were a lot more, less structured, and whenever Simon and I really started, like, trying to do movies that played like, more conventional movies, we just, everything just started advancing, I guess, yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems like you find a very good team in yourself. I mean, there's a very strong connection and respect and admiration for each other. I mean, that's very unique.
Yeah, but I mean, we both had failed a lot before we started working together. Like we
What do you mean?
Adam made his film that took 2 years to make, and it came out, but I wasn't able to like finance his next project. Actually, it was, but then that was Horrible Way to Die, which we made together, which was a hellish experience.
Which took 2 years, and it was like, and then that one was only like a $70,000 thing. It was like,
Yeah.
that was the bare minimum you get for it. That's what
Yeah, so, I think ultimately, even delivering it cost under 100,000. But then, like, from that, we were like, oh God, what was the nightmare on this thing? It was that we had like 40 locations and like 18 shooting days. So we'll write a movie with only one location. The next one is so easy, and it was like, oh, this is vastly more hellish. So I just want to get to the point where basically I'm able to actually apply the lessons I'm learning to the future, as opposed to like just being kind of like, oh, that hindsight was good.
Look, I'm getting some kind of signal apparently, but let's be like vicious about it and ignore it.
Actually, I think the last Q&A we did, like, was at South by, and they actually turned off our mics and we yelled at us. It was great.
But so, I'm going to ask a few more questions. I think it would be fair for the audience because it was a great reception. And I think
Thanks, guys.
you have a lot of love out there. Say that you want more. I mean, you're never going to get more because you're always going to want what's like.
Well, that's fine, but to know, to know what, that much more is, you just got to keep building up. I mean, each movie we've done, it just keeps, we keep getting more days, and we keep, being able to escalate it, and.
But also, when you make this kind of a budget, it also allows. I mean, how do you have complete creative freedom, you two?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, our producers are part of every conversation, but it's
No, but in the end, when do you have?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so if you wanted to make this 5 hours long, you could make it 5 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like we could, and I think that Keith and Jeff would probably be really upset by that.
I think they'd be very disappointed in us, but they'd probably allow it.
Yeah. They probably would never work with us.
Yeah.
But so we have a mutual respect for each other, and ultimately we know that like that's not what's best for this movie, and and we're all just trying to make the same film. That's why it works, is because we're all on the same page, and and at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the leanest, like the best version of this film that we shot as possible. Everybody's working towards the same end.
But yeah, we have like final cut contracts always and stuff. So, yeah.
That's a very important thing to retain.
Yeah, that's what our lawyers told us.
Yeah, because if you don't have that, you're fucked. Literally, because anything can happen, and you can spend 5 years or 2 years or 6 months. It doesn't matter.
Well, like,
we're always transparent with what we're doing. Even all the crazy ideas from the very get-go. A lot of the music in the film, like the actual score. I worked with the composer ahead of time, and I try to get him to create a lot of music before we start shooting, so that we know kind of the vibe of the movie.
Do you use music a lot when you prepare?
Oh yeah. And I mean, for this film, initially the actual the soundtrack songs in the film. Originally I was more thinking, along the lines of more kind of goth rock 80s stuff, and there's still some of that in there, like Front 242 and Planet Zymox and all that kind of stuff. But but as we made the film, I think the movie ended up kind of having a little bit more of a poppy feel, and that kind of goth rock stuff was a little bit too dark for it. And so, but at the same time, I have to admit, The Drive was definitely an influence. I love the way that you use the music in that film. And even though we have kind of a similar kind of vibe to some of the electronic music stuff, I was always very aware of not having the same kind of emotional feel that kind of stuff has. So I was definitely trying to avoid that, but it was always, an influence into it. And,
You're gonna put a soundtrack on it?
Yeah, I think we're putting it together right now.
Great soundtrack, man. Very good work. Okay, so can we get 2 questions? Are we allowed to get 2 questions?
yeah.
Okay, so you can choose one each.
You go first.
Right there.
Hey,
Hey, really loved the movie. I thought it was great. This question is for Simon. I was wondering if the ending is what you always had in mind, or if it changed over time. The very ending, or originally the Halloween maze was added after the first draft. Originally took place at the high school, in the hallways. And we just were this is just guaranteeing that there's going to be a school shooting before we premiere. That sounded funnier in my head, but it's also true. We were the film ended with the script ended with people cutting each other's throats in school hallways. And we're
Actually, there was a whole subplot thing with Micah's character being good at archery, and I think she shot David with a bow and arrow.
She shot him with a bow and arrow in the science room, which she blew up by turning on all the Bunsen burners. It was I mean, it was a first draft. And then, when Adam started talking more, he's always kind of sending me music and stuff. And when I kind of got more stylistically where he's going, we had the idea of making the Halloween maze kind of off-site. So that changed, just kind of based on practical considerations. And then the very end, where she sees that the fireman is David, that was much more kind of subtle in the script. And then at a certain point, I think we realized that we had to make a choice there. That going subtle wasn't ultimately going to be satisfying for anyone. And obviously the choice is that we wanted it to be clear that he is going to continue his adventures.
Would you make a part 2? I guess part 2?
I don't know. I mean, really the ending was more kind of an homage to Halloween in a way, because he he's sort of like, he's supposed to sort of, in my mind, I know Simon's about to say something that's going to contradict me, but I can see it right now.
No, I'm not.
But he's like an inverted Michael Myers, and Michael Myers, he always lives on. That's sort of just like a lame homage to it, I guess.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, it was very close. Generally, I think Adam said that like my first drafts aren't like generally kind of 90% there, and then we're screwed.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. And so I get to pick one now for Adam. Oh wait, I don't see any. Oh, over there.
Hi. I was wondering what it was like working with more complicated stunts than you've had in any of your previous films. If that was like a more fun or more stressful experience.
More fun.
In all honesty, this one was actually easier just because it wasn't practical FX makeup stuff. Because in your next, a lot of like the stunt stuff and the violence, always had a lot of like blood and gore, and we always wanted to do it practical, and so. That's always just like a nightmare to do. And this was actually, I felt like a lot easier because in some ways there was less that could go wrong, because.
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, for some reason, whenever you're using like blood effects, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but for me, it's like maybe I've just never found the right effects guy, but they
never work.
Yeah,
they never work.
It's always a disaster.
It's good to hear. We were wondering.
Yeah, and so, like when you have people shooting each other, it's like the guns always go off, or for the most part they do, and, all that stuff is, very rarely more than like 2 takes anyways, so.
The car crash.
Well, the car crash we had to do like 3 times, so that's a whole other story, but.
You did 3 times?
Actually, like counting the times we tested it and accidentally wrecked the cars, I think we did it like 4 times. Yeah, they missed.
Yeah,
They missed.
Cars crashing. There's probably cars crashing. There's probably like tons of cars crashing each other right now, but for some reason our effects team couldn't manage to make that happen on purpose for some reason. They were using like this pulley rig, and the first time we did it, the cars missed each other, but they hit just enough so that it damaged the cars enough so we couldn't do it that day.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to scrap it. That killed like half a morning, And then we came back and tried to do it again, and he couldn't pull it off, and we scrapped it.
Well, and then one of them spun out. They were testing it.
And he knew that they had to hit each other.
He knew that. Which I thought would be a simple thing, is I wanted the 2 headlights basically hit each other so that they would kind of spin around, And that was too complicated for them, so we just played it safe in the end, and we had another guy come down because we were running out of time, and we just crashed them head on into each other.
Yeah, but I mean, the second time they were testing it, they broke like all the rotors, and we'd already established the car, so we had to like rebuild the car every time it went wrong. So I mean, every time it's like a new.
Half of our shoot was that car accident.
And by the way, our movie that we're gonna make in Seoul was like a car chase movie with like 50 car crashes. so then we literally could not get 2 cars to hit each other. Broad daylight, straight road, no traffic. So we were like, okay, you know what? This is things always seem to work
Well,
out.
you guys had trouble invading Iraq as well.
What? I mean, yes, over here. I mean, yeah. All right, can't we just get past that? No, we did.
Okay, let's have some few more questions.
Wait, I'm going to talk about Iraq.
I like how you did that nod to, was that an intentional nod to Drive when he had that army man get his arm slashed? Was that like bled to death? Was that intentional?
Was it an intentional reference to Drive Angry? Or Drive?
Drive. Yeah, was it like when he bled out in that hallway? In that hallway?
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I haven't, yeah.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
Oh, I mean, he does kill a guy by cutting his wrist, which I Drive and the guests are pretty much on a short list there. Yes. Yes. But the good, because probably.
Let's ask some female.
Right here.
Yeah, it's exactly the topic. I was wondering, maybe you're also interested in the female perspective, and if you also would consider to do like a movie where the woman is having a main part and not only the.
Well, our last film, actually, the female was the main character, and she, yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
So you are still up for it.
What's that?
You are still up for it.
We're still up for it. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean.
I
yeah,
just happened to sit next to a really great actress.
Simon, do your magic.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, we kind of, that was part of the experiment of Your Next was, kind of having all the strong characters be female. And then, and we kind of wanted to switch it up, but we still, I mean, Adam's talked a lot about how, like, the Dan Stevens coming out of the shower scene, we wanted to be very much like, from kind of the female gaze and stuff.
What's
just
it
because
just there? Female gaze?
yeah, like from a female perspective. For the ladies.
Downton Abbey.
It's been a while since I was in film school, but I think that's like a phrase that's acceptable. So yeah, I mean, we try to be kind of conscious of, like, not being sexist.
Okay.
That's the
Time to say, and I just want to say again, I thought this film was terrific. I thought it was really well written and structured. I thought it was extremely well directed and shot. I thought the music was terrific. I thought the performances were excellent. I think Dan Stevens, stick to him because he's going to be very, very big. So do a collaboration with him, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to the great people at Picture House. The film will be coming out September 17th, so tell friends, tweet about it, let people know how awesome the movie is. Thanks, guys.